The evening began with a sense of stillness that Margaret Hale had come to know well. The rain had started early, soft and steady, washing the street in silver light. She moved through her small Portland home with practiced ease, setting a kettle on the stove, straightening a book on the table, living inside a quiet she had carefully chosen. At 48, quiet felt earned. It was the result of years of hard lessons, of loving deeply and losing slowly. She paused by the window, watching cars pass, their lights blurred by rain. Nights like this often carried memories with them, but she did not let them stay long. She had learned how to close doors inside her own heart. Then the knock came. It was gentle, almost unsure, as if the person on the other side did not want to disturb her. Margaret frowned slightly. No one ever came by unannounced anymore. For a moment, she considered ignoring it. Instead, she wiped her hands on a towel and walked to the door. When she opened it, a world shifted in a small but lasting way. A man stood there, rain darkening his jacket, hair damp, eyes alert yet kind. He looked younger than her, not in a careless way, but in a quiet, steady way. The kind of young that came with purpose, not recklessness. "Hi," he said, offering a polite smile. "I think I might have the wrong address." Margaret returned the smile and pointed to the house next door. He laughed softly, embarrassed, and thanked her. He turned to leave, then stopped, as if something pulled him back. "I'm Ethan," he said. "Sorry again for the trouble." "Margaret," she replied. They stood there longer than necessary. Rain fell around them, filling the silence without making it awkward. Ethan glanced past her into the warm glow of her home, then back at her face. "You have a peaceful place," he said, not as praise, but as observation. Margaret felt the comment settle somewhere unexpected. She nodded, unsure why it mattered. Ethan hesitated, then spoke again, carefully. "If you don't mind me asking, how long have you lived here?" "Long enough to stop counting," she said with a small laugh. He smiled. Something about that smile felt sincere, unguarded. They talked briefly about the neighborhood, about how quiet it was, about how the city changed but somehow stayed the same. The conversation was simple, but it flowed easily. Then Ethan surprised her. "I know this is sudden," he said, choosing his words, "but I'd like to talk again. Maybe over coffee." Margaret felt a tightness in her chest. She was used to being invisible now, used to conversations that stayed safely distant. She studied his face, waiting for discomfort, judgment, hesitation. There was none. He saw her age. He saw the years in her eyes, and he stayed. "I'm older than you," she said, not as a warning, but as truth. "I know," Ethan replied without pause. "That's not a problem for me." The honesty of it left her speechless. After a moment, she nodded. Coffee would be fine. Ethan smiled wider this time, relief clear on his face. He thanked her again and walked away, rain following him down the sidewalk. Margaret closed the door and leaned against it, heart racing. She hadn't planned for this. She hadn't prepared for interest, especially not from someone younger. Someone who looked at her like she was fully present, fully seen. That night, sleep came slowly. Days passed. And she tried to return to routine. Work, errands, quiet dinners. Yet her thoughts kept circling back to the knock, the voice, the calm confidence in his eyes. When they met for coffee, it felt natural, not awkward. They spoke about books, about travel, about mistakes that shaped them. Ethan listened. Really listened. He spoke of moving back to Portland after years away, of wanting something grounded, something real. He did not talk about age as a barrier. He spoke about connection, about timing, about choosing honesty. Margaret admired his clarity, but it frightened her. She had been here before, not with someone younger, but with hope. And hope had cost her dearly. As days turned into weeks, their meetings became part of her life. Walks by the river, conversations that stretched late into the evening, laughter that surprised her with its ease. Still, she kept parts of herself guarded, afraid of what opening fully might invite. One evening, Ethan walked her home. They stood at her door again, mirroring the night they met. "I don't want to rush you," he said. "I just don't want to pretend this is nothing." Margaret looked at him, really looked. The world had taught her to be cautious. But it had also taught her that regret often came from chances not taken. "This isn't simple," she said softly. "I don't expect it to be," he answered. The space between them held possibility and risk in equal measure. Margaret reached for the door, opening it slowly. She did not invite him in. She did not push him away. She left the choice suspended, breathing in the moment. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to consider that maybe, just maybe, some doors were meant to be opened twice, and somewhere deep inside, she knew this was only the beginning. Margaret did not expect the days to change so quickly, but they did. What began as quiet meetings turned into something that followed her everywhere. She woke up thinking about Ethan. She went to sleep replaying his words. The calm she once protected now felt different, stretched by possibility and doubt. Ethan moved through her life with ease. He never pushed, never rushed, but he was always present. He called when he said he would. He listened without distraction. He remembered small things, like how she liked her coffee or how she paused before speaking when something mattered. That steadiness unsettled her more than charm ever could. They spent time together in simple ways. Long walks near the river, short drives with the radio low, quiet dinners at small places where no one paid attention to who they were or how old they looked. Margaret found herself laughing more than she had in years, then stopping suddenly, as if afraid joy might hear her and leave. One afternoon, while sitting on a park bench, Ethan spoke plainly. He said he liked her honesty, her calm strength, the way she did not pretend to be anything else. Margaret listened, heart heavy with both warmth and fear. Compliments no longer came easily to her. They carried responsibility. "I don't want to misunderstand this," she said. "People notice things. They judge." Ethan nodded. "I know. I'm not blind to it." "And you're still here?" she said. "Yes," he replied. "Because this feels real." That word stayed with her. Real. She had spent years convincing herself that real love belonged to the past. She had loved once with her whole heart, and paid for it with long nights and quiet grief. She had rebuilt herself slowly, carefully. Letting someone new inside felt like risking everything she had worked to protect. At night, doubt grew louder. She questioned her motives. Was she lonely? Was she selfish? Was she borrowing hope that belonged to someone younger? Someone closer to Ethan's future? These thoughts followed her even when he wasn't there. The tension reached her family too. Her sister noticed the change first. The lighter step, the distracted smiles. "Are you seeing someone?" she asked. Margaret hesitated before answering. "Yes." "How old is he?" her sister asked gently, already sensing the truth. Margaret told her. Silence followed. Not anger, not disapproval, but concern. "Be careful," her sister said. "Not everyone is kind about these things." Margaret knew that already. Ethan faced his own questions. Friends teased him. Some warned him. Others assumed it was temporary. He listened, but he did not retreat. He did not try to explain Margaret away or hide her presence. He showed up again and again. One evening, they attended a small gathering together. Nothing dramatic happened, but the air felt heavy. Curious glances, polite smiles that didn't quite reach the eyes. Margaret felt the weight of every year she carried. Later, alone in the car, she broke. "This is what I was afraid of," she said quietly. "You shouldn't have to carry this." Ethan parked the car and turned to her. "I choose what I carry." She looked at him, emotion rising. "You say that now? But time changes things." "Time changes everyone," he said. That's not a reason to stop living. Still, Margaret pulled back after that night. Not suddenly, not cruelly, but carefully. She answered messages slower. She declined invitations with polite excuses. She told herself she was doing the right thing, saving them both from future pain. Ethan noticed. One evening he stood at her door again, his expression calm but firm. "You're closing the door," he said. "I need to know why." Margaret took a deep breath. "'Cause I care. And caring means knowing when to step away." "That's not care," he said softly. "That's fear." She did not deny it. They stood in silence, the space between them, full of words neither could easily say. Margaret felt the familiar urge to retreat, to choose safety over risk. It had kept her steady for years, but it had also kept her alone. "I don't want to be the chapter you outgrow," she said. Ethan answered without hesitation. "You're not a chapter, you're a choice." Those words cracked something open and her dates passed without resolution. They did not end things, but they did not move forward either. The pause was painful, filled with unanswered questions. Then something shifted. Margaret attended a quiet evening event alone, watching couples move through the room. She realized she was not afraid of judgment anymore. She was afraid of regret. She returned home and sat in the dark, thinking of all the times she had chosen caution and called it wisdom. She wondered how many moments she had already lost that way. The next morning, she called Ethan. "I've spent my life preparing for loss," she said. "I don't know how to prepare for hope." "You don't prepare for it," he replied. "You step into it." That evening, she opened her door fully. They did not promise forever. They did not pretend the future would be easy. They promised honesty. They promised to speak when fear returned instead of hiding behind it. The world did not change overnight. There were still looks, still questions, still moments of doubt. But there was also laughter, trust, and a growing sense of peace. Margaret learned that strength did not always mean standing alone. Sometimes it meant standing beside someone and allowing yourself to be seen. Ethan learned that love was not measured by age, but by presence and choice. And as time moved forward, they walked together, not certain of the ending, but certain of one thing: he had known she was older, and he had walked through the door anyway.